Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Fair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of John Rahm's favorite football podcast. I'm joined once again by my illustrious co-host, Mike Fair. How's it going, Mike?
Oh, Joe, what a pleasure to be back. It's going good, a lot better, like I said, than last week. I got sick. Got stupid busy, couldn't make it on the pod, felt really bad. Then to hear you throw me under the bus in the beginning of last week's episode kind of hurt. But it is what it is. We're just going to move right past it. That's right. And John Rahm just came off a big victory last weekend, and it's Cinco de Mayo. I hope they celebrate that as a Spaniard. But yeah, no, Joe, we're rolling. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we're not sure. I was trying to think of a name. Mike gave me John Rahm. He's a golfer. He's from Spain. I don't know do Spanish people celebrate Cinco de Mayo, or is it just a Mexican thing? Feels like we're on thin ice with this right now.
Yeah, I don't want to get canceled, so I don't want to make any controversial comments to this. Yeah. But yeah, John Rahm, heard he loves to listen to the pod.
All right, yeah, John Rahm, he does love the podcast. But yes, you were not here last week. I don't know if you listened to the episode. I guess you did because you heard me call you out. But you missed my unbelievable mock draft. I mean, I've heard some people saying it was the best one in the business. It was outrageously good. I didn't even see how many picks I got right, but I feel like it was at least 3 or 4.
Joe, I mean, phenomenal, unbeatable. You just can't be knocked. The amount of effort you put in, Joe, and I mean, to have at least 3 or 4 picks correct is ridiculous.
Yeah, I can understand you not wanting to be on the podcast because it's a little intimidating when you have somebody like me with so much draft knowledge, and just so I'm an insider in the sport. It must be it's intimidating to be on a mock draft podcast like that.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I was shaking in my boots a little. I think that's why I got, it could have been nerves, Joe. That's maybe why I was sick, why my stomach wasn't feeling good. I was just nervous. I did not want to be out-dueled in the mock draft.
Yes, but we are back, and we haven't recorded a podcast in what feels like forever. The draft was on a Thursday. We usually record on a Thursday, so we just kind of skipped that week. So we're going to get into some draft talk on today, just give you winners and losers from the draft. I know it feels like the draft was already 6 months ago at this point, but we're still going to get into the draft. There's still some things to talk about there. We're going to go over the news, talk about a little bit of news going around as we're hitting kind of that slow period of the NFL offseason. But Mike, how did you enjoy the draft? How much? I'm sure you didn't watch the entire draft because I think you have to be a complete psychopath to watch the entire draft. But did you enjoy, let's say, the first round of the draft? And what were your overall thoughts on it, the 2022 NFL draft?
Yeah, no, it was pretty entertaining as always. This year we had talked about prior, it wasn't quarterback heavy, but I feel like it was somewhat of a deeper draft. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it was pretty good. I will say, as a Pats fan, very disappointed in our draft class this year. To take a offensive lineman that was maybe second, third round worthy in the first round made 0 sense to me. But other than that, Joe, I had a good. Yeah, no pun intended. Other than that, I really enjoyed draft night, day one especially, because that's when most of the big names go, and get to see some lives getting changed. But how about you, Joe? What'd you think of the Dolphins and just the draft in whole?
Yeah, Dolphins didn't really do much. They didn't have a whole lot of draft picks. They had 4 picks, and their first pick was in the 3rd round, so they didn't pick till 102 or 104 or something like that. So that was, as far as that goes, wasn't totally entertaining. But I thought the first night of the draft was really entertaining. It was kind of pegged as being, this boring draft. This draft is going to be one of the most boring ones, and there's nothing entertaining. And it was one of the most entertaining drafts I've ever watched. I think there was something 9 trades at the end of round 1, which I couldn't even keep up with it. By the end, I honestly had no idea who was even trading anymore. I was I don't even know if this team's supposed to be picking here or if like they traded in here. Like I just could not keep up with any of that. But no, it was really fun. I definitely enjoyed it, and the draft is one of my favorite nights of the year as well. But before we get into the draft, why don't we get into a little bit of news that happened this week? Why don't we start off with the New Orleans Saints just shortly after the draft ends announced that they have signed safety Honey Badger Tyrann Mathieu to a 3-year, $33 million contract. The 30-year-old safety played his last, 3-4 seasons in Kansas City, won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs, and now he takes his talents back home to New Orleans where he played his college ball. I don't know if he's actually from there. I think he is. I'm not totally sure, but he played college ball at LSU. Mike, what are your thoughts on the Honey Badger are you good with your cookie or? Okay, yeah, he was just eating a cookie. What are your thoughts on the Honey Badger going to the New Orleans Saints?
Joe, I love it. Bring him home. That's what I was motioning to you there.
Okay.
Bring him back to Louisiana. I think Tyrann Mathieu brings a tenacity to that defense, which their defense over the years has always been a key in their success. So that'll just ramp up the D, kind of a leader over there. And if, Jameis can come back and play at a decent level, I don't know what the situation is with Alvin Kamara at the time, but that'll really help boost their defense. So I think it was very smart for the Saints to go out and sign him, bring in, like I said, a leader on the defense, someone that'll group the guys together. And, you don't need to have a great offense. As long as your defense is solid, you don't have to put up a whole lot of points. So, maybe that's where the Saints are headed.
Yeah. I like the signing. I probably would have liked the signing wherever Honey Badger went. I know he's not who he used to be, but I think he could still be like a valuable leader, like you said, on a defense, bring a little tenacity, bring a little knowledge. I think he's very smart and just a versatile player. And it's definitely interesting. The Saints seem to think that they seem to be loading up like they think they can compete this year. Like they think they can, potentially be a playoff or Super Bowl contender. And I think that's what this move shows, is that the Saints, and I think their draft moves this year have shown the same, that the Saints seem to be like all in. They think they can compete this year. And I don't know if I totally agree with that. I wouldn't really put them up there with the other playoff contenders or Super Bowl contenders. But yeah, I think this move kind of shows me that they're not doing any sort of rebuild without Sean Payton. They're not, they're not taking a step back. They're ready to compete. And I'm curious, do you think, where do you think the Saints kind of stand in the hierarchy of the NFC? Dude, are they a team that potentially makes the playoffs, or can they be a Super Bowl contender? Because I'm not that high on the Saints, but they seem to be pretty high on themselves right now.
Well, Joe, I mean, we see the NFC as a whole right now, and it's very depleted. The Saints were one game out from making the playoffs last year. So if they can somehow branch some wins together, like I said, in a conference that is completely just gutted at the moment, I feel like the Saints have a chance to make a playoff run. That's why I think they're not going for the full rebuild, because they see it as an opportunity, as look, there's not a whole lot of teams that are stacked on this side of the ball. So let's see if we can make a run. And, it doesn't take a number one team to win a Super Bowl. We've seen the Giants do it in the past, being a wild card team, making it all the way if you have a solid defense. If you can get on a hot streak going into the postseason with a 8-9 record, Joe, I mean, you can do some damage. So I think that's probably why they didn't go full rebuild, just because the NFC is so depleted.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Totally. That the NFC, I think if they're in the AFC, it'd probably be a much different situation. And you look at their division too, you have the Bucs. Yeah. The Bucs are obviously, they're a Super Bowl potential favorite this upcoming season. But other than that, you got the Panthers and the Falcons. They're not going to do much. So I think they can easily get second place in that division. And I think that puts you in a good spot to get into the playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see with the Saints, how much they can kind of build on what they did last year, even though they don't have Sean Payton anymore. And I think that'll be a huge difference maker. But the addition of Tyrann Mathieu, I think, definitely a good addition. But why don't we move on to the final little piece of news before we get into winners and losers from the draft. and it's pretty disappointing news. Came out just in the past few days that DeAndre Hopkins has been suspended for the first 6 games of the 2022 NFL season for violating the NFL's not substance abuse policy, but PED policy. So he was apparently taking some performance enhancing drugs. And he initially, what is that called when he's trying to get his, he appealed it. That's the word I was looking for.
There we go.
Appealed the suspension, looking to get its, I guess a smaller suspension. He actually, pulled that. So he's not appealing it anymore, and he's just going to take his 6-game suspension. Mike, what was your initial reaction to seeing DeAndre Hopkins being suspended for 6 games? Like, that's a substantial amount of games. That's not a 4-game suspension. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we've talked about the Cardinals in the past and how they get off to these hot streaks and then they kind of fizzle out. So it's going to put a massive dent in their plans to start the year. I think it's huge, Joe. Like, DeAndre Hopkins is that offense beside Kyler Murray. I know there's someone else who got added to the Cardinals, which we'll talk about here very shortly. 6 games is massive. It's kind of weird. Like, you see these players get hurt, quite often, these massive injuries, and they come back and boom, get, suspended for violating due to substance abuse or violating the league's protocols. Like, I saw Julian Edelman a few years ago, DeAndre Hopkins, Rob Ninkovich, I remember him. And, there's plenty of other players. So it's kind of weird how it happens. I don't know if players know they're doing it and they're just trying to see if they can get around it. But at the end of the day, massive loss for the Cardinals. Man, I feel like I was going to say something else. Oh, I would like to know, though, Joe, what your thoughts are. So DeAndre Hopkins gets busted for PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, gets 6 games. But Calvin Ridley bets on his own team to win a game. Out for the year.
Oh, dang.
He's done. We're talking about something that was actually an advantage to the player and something that was just betting on your own team. And I'm not trying to compare the two, but what I'm saying is I feel like the league really needs to sit down and set certain suspensions because they're all over the place when it comes to handing out suspensions.
Yes, that I agree with 100%. And I didn't even think of it. Yeah, I never thought about comparing the Calvin Ridley thing to the DeAndre Hopkins things. But what you said about the league needing to sit down and have a number on actual suspensions, I think that is 100% true. They are all over the place. Roger Goodell is so inconsistent with the way that he suspends players. I remember back in the day that Ray Rice got something like 4 games, and he completely just totally beat the crap out of his wife. And I think originally it was a 4-game suspension, and it's and then you have guys like Calvin Ridley getting suspended for the whole season, and then they haven't suspended Deshaun Watson yet, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's definitely they're so inconsistent with their suspensions for sure. That is something that needs to be fixed 100%. I don't know how you would go about doing that, but I feel like they can figure that out. But as far as DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, he's so important to this offense. I don't think there's a receiver in the league now that Devontae Adams is out of Green Bay that is as important to their team as DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is so important to this team, and it's such a pivotal season for the Arizona Cardinals. I feel like coming into this season, there's a lot at stake for the Cardinals right now. Kyler Murray's up in the air. The vibes have not been good this offseason. I'm a big vibes guy. Vibes have not been good. And they always get off to those hot starts and then they fizzle out. Now it's going to be even harder to get off to a hot start because you don't have the best player on your team. And it's definitely disappointing for the Cardinals, and it just already was not very high on them going into the season, and I think this definitely puts a huge dent into their season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With the way the offseason was, there was apparently a very heated meeting with Cliff Kingsbury and the owners of the Cardinals, and with just the way their season ended last year and the year prior, and now to start their season off like this, kind of like was it the Raiders we talked about last year at the beginning of the year, like with John Gruden, that whole thing, like just bad vibes, Joe, just bad vibes inside the organization. Like, I mean, everything just seems to be going wrong for them.
I think I remember us talking about the Raiders and a bunch of other teams with bad vibes, and I definitely put the Cardinals up there as far as bad vibes going into the 2022 NFL season. But we'll have to see how they recover from this pretty detrimental news to their team. But that kind of wraps up the news for this week's episode. So why don't we move into the draft, Mike? You haven't been on for a couple weeks. You weren't here again, like I said, for my spectacular NFL mock draft. I hate to bring it up again. I'm just keep calling you out for not being here, but
I appreciate that.
No, it's good. It's great to have you back. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, stronger. Is that how it goes? What's the saying?
However you want it to go, Joe.
Perfect. We'll do both, fonder and stronger. We had the 2022 NFL draft. What feels like 6 months ago, but we're here. It was a very entertaining draft. A ton going on, like trades, like I was saying before, all over the place. We had, I believe it was like 9 trades in the first round. We had kind of a surprise at the first overall pick, but by the time I guess the draft started, and by the time you saw my mock draft, you were not surprised to see Trayvon Walker go number 1, then Aiden Hutchinson go 2, and then Derek Stingley, first big surprise, going at number 3. I won't go through every single pick, but it was definitely an entertaining draft and a lot of storylines. And we had some teams making some trades for some veteran receivers, and just overall, just a good time. And Mike, what do you think? Before we get into winners and losers, what do you think is like the big? And I'm kind of catching you off guard with this, so I don't blame you if you don't have like a super in-depth answer. But like, what do you think is like the main storyline or the biggest takeaway from the 2022 NFL draft?
Just the trades. If you want, we can get into them real quick.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk.
Some of the big ones, dude. Like the AJ Brown trade.
Oh my goodness,
dude, that one caught me off guard. I don't know if you saw Mike. I don't know if you saw Mike Vrabel's face. When the trade happened, they showed a clip of it, and he did not look overly thrilled. Apparently, as well as his teammate Ryan Tannehill, I don't think he was very game.
I think it was a bad draft for him.
Yeah, especially with one of the picks that they got, what was it, 3 picks for AJ Brown?
I think 2. I think only 2.
Okay, it was 2 picks, and one of those picks they drafted basically Ryan Tannehill's replacement.
Yeah.
And Ryan Tannehill said he wasn't having it. He said he's not going to mentor him. So, and by him, I mean, was it Malik Willis?
Yeah, Malik Willis.
So, yeah, I mean, he wasn't having it. I mean, but yeah, massive trade. A.J. Brown goes to the Eagles in exchange for 2 picks, signs a massive deal over there, which I think is going to boost the Philadelphia Eagles offense with Devontae Smith and, Jalen Hurts. So I think that's going to help the passing game out. And then another massive trade, we had the Cardinals getting Hollywood Marquis Brown from the Ravens, which, I mean, I guess if you're a Cardinals fan, that's going to be a boost for you now after seeing Deandre Hopkins being out. But, Joe, one thing we can think, I guess we could talk about a little bit is if the Cardinals can somehow just bridge those first 6 games and just have a manageable record. DeAndre Hopkins comes back. You got Marquise Brown. AJ Green, I think, is still there. Like, I feel like Kyler Murray's got all the weapons he needs now on the offensive side to play, to have an insane year, MVP caliber season again. Maybe bring him on another playoff run. But of course, they're gonna have to play lights out those first few games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and then they brought Marquise Brown in, I think, almost exclusively to make Kyler Murray happy because I guess they were best friends at Oklahoma. They played together at Oklahoma, so absolutely. I think their weapons definitely got better. I guess Marquise Brown came in. I guess you could say he's an upgrade over Christian Kirk. But I definitely think they gave up a little too much to go get Marquise Brown. I wouldn't have given a first-round pick, but you got to do what you got to do to make your quarterback happy. And definitely, like, if they can somehow survive those first 6 games, having DeAndre Hopkins take a lot of the attention away from Marquise Brown could open him up downfield. I think that was kind of a thing. And in Baltimore was he was kind of the number one guy, so he couldn't really like he was constantly getting all the attention. And if he's getting less attention, you could see him break off some huge plays. But to me, that trade is not even the biggest. Like they traded for not even the best Brown. Not even the best wide receiver with the last name Brown that day, because the Eagles traded for AJ Brown. And to me, that was that was the blockbuster. I think that was the thing that set off like all the rest of the trades. And to me, that was just, I think, a steal for the Eagles. They gave up a first round pick and I think a third third and a first for AJ Brown, which is a steal. And then you sign him to a new contract, 5 years, $100 million with 50 some guaranteed. And you just continue to see certain teams go in different directions. Like you see some teams, they're getting rid of these receivers. They're getting rid of these high paid receivers, and other teams are paying for, top dollar, really big money, like $25 million, $30 million a year for these big name receivers. And I'm curious, like which side is going to be proven right? Like, and I'm sure there'll be, different cases will be different, but what would you do, Mike? Would you want to, trade away, get extra assets, and maybe draft a wide receiver and it seems like a lot of wide receivers are coming to the NFL already? Or would you rather pay like a known commodity like AJ Brown, $25 million a year to come in and what you're going to get with AJ Brown?
Joe, I am busting out the paychecks. I'm signing AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill. I don't care what it takes. They're coming to my team, Joe. We're winning 9 straight Super Bowls, and I'm going to get all my money and then some. All right. I've never been one to tank or, build for the future. It's win now. Outside of building super teams, like I just said I was going to do. I was a big hater about the super teams last year. Yeah, a bit hypocritical, kind of changing my mindset on that. Which I guess it's a trend we've seen. Like last year was the build, let's build a super team. This year the trend is like, let's pay a wide receiver. Wide receivers getting paid. Also just massive deals, trading, everything's going on. I say pay the players, they deserve it. I think they make the teams better. Mm-hmm. So why not pay them? I feel like the Packers are losers for getting rid of Devontae. Chiefs are losers for getting rid of Tyreek. Titans are losers for getting rid of AJ Brown. Ravens, I don't know about Marquis Brown as much. But basically all these receivers, these big name ones that have walked, I feel like the teams they've left are the losers of the deals.
Yeah, and we could be. I think I'm on your side, and in the aspect of the Titans, they went and drafted Treylon Burks with that same pick, who was a receiver that a lot of people compared to AJ Brown. So you could say, oh, we just went and replaced him with a guy that is already, compared to him. But to me, it's like you draft guys like Treylon Burks hoping that they become AJ Brown. So you already had AJ Brown. So what's the point of drafting a guy if you're just going to trade him, 3 years later? And it's very hard to find really good players like that. Like the draft is a complete crapshoot. Like, yeah, I'm all for, if you have an established player, paying him money. And yeah, it's not my money. So like, go out and pay players, pay good players, because it's not as easy as just, like in Madden, you're like, oh, let me just draft this receiver, because he'll be just as good as AJ Brown. But it's like, no, you want him to be AJ Brown and you already had him. So now you got rid of him. And yeah, to me, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but not that it doesn't make sense. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to, get more picks and develop receivers, but to me, it's tough to get rid of like homegrown talent just because you're too scared to pay for their contract. But yeah, that's kind of the biggest trade that happened. I definitely am in agreement with you there. Why don't we get into some of our biggest winners and losers from not just the first round but the overall draft? What's up?
Do we want to do biggest winners and losers, or do we want to talk about picks we liked and then do biggest and winners and losers to end it?
That's a good question. What do you want to do?
I feel like talk about some picks that we like
Let's
to
do
see,
it.
and
Let's
then
do
move
it.
on to winners and losers.
That's actually, I think that is better. Yes, man. Maybe you should be the full-time host.
You know, Joe, you're the mock draft guy. I'm the setup guy. I get everything running smoothly over here.
I need you.
Yeah,
All right,
I do.
all right. Then you start us off. What's a pick that you liked
All right, Joe.
from the draft, whether it's first round, second round, seventh round, whatever?
Joe, seeing my Patriots select an offensive lineman in the first round, I mean, best pick of the draft, I think. We're winning the Super Bowl. No, to be honest, I'm going to go with my one of the picks I liked. I'm going to go with USC receiver Drake London to the Falcons.
Okay.
I think him and Kyle Pitts, you know, without Calvin Ridley, they really needed some help, you know, especially after losing Matt Ryan as well. So I love seeing that, you know, get Marcus Mariota a weapon. Also heard a rumor that RG3 would like to play for the Falcons to kind of mentor Marcus Mariota, but I don't know. I feel like Marcus Mariota has some talent, you know, maybe has something in him, maybe gives Atlanta a spark, and giving him that receiver, you know, that maybe potential number one guy to throw to is just the perfect way to start that.
Yeah. Did you see that RG3 ran a 4.48 40-yard dash?
Only like, what was it, 0.08 seconds slower than when he was, you know, running it in the combine.
That's unreal. Holy smokes. Yeah, somebody get that guy on a roster. That's insane that he can still run that fast. That guy.
Yeah, that is nuts.
He is, oh man, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but he is one player that I just feel so sad thinking about what could have been if he hadn't gotten injured. Like that guy could have been.
Yep.
Oh, he could have been so good. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. Drake London, yeah, I think Drake London is a really cool pick. I mocked them having Garrett Wilson. I thought they were going to pick that receiver, but Drake London, you know, having a huge receiver like that, and then you line him up with Kyle Pitts, like they just got like the Twin Towers now over there for the Atlanta Falcons, like just big receivers, which is what they had with Julio Jones and like Roddy White and like Calvin Ridley. Like, you just get these big dudes, and you know, definitely will help a guy like Marcus Mariota, and they just needed a receiver really bad. Like they had nothing at receiver. So yeah, I like that as well. A pick that I really liked was the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and that was Aiden Hutchinson going to the Detroit Lions. I talked about this 2 episodes ago when we talked about picks that we want to see. I love it. Michigan, born and raised, went to school at the University of Michigan. Now he goes and plays for the hometown team, Detroit Lions. And it's just the vibes, man. The vibes are good. Like to have a guy who's, you know, he's not a guy who would be, you know, lacking motivation anyways. But now you send him home. You send him to MCDC, Motor City Dan, and you know, you gets me fired up, man. I can't wait to watch Hard Knocks with Aiden Hutchinson. And they needed edge rushers there really bad. They needed a lot of positions really bad. But yeah, no, I really love seeing Aiden Hutchinson go to the Lions. That was probably like my favorite pick, and that was the one I wanted so bad. I wanted Trayvon Walker to go 1 so I could see Aiden Hutchinson, who I loved, going to the Detroit Lions, who I'm honestly starting to love more and more every single week.
Yeah, no, Joe, and you know, speaking of the Lions, we might as well move into my next pick, Joe. Basically, the Lions' entire draft class.
Okay.
I really liked. You know, with Aiden Hutchinson, you know, edge from Michigan. You get Jamison Williams, a wide receiver. You know, get some help to Jared Goff. You know, and he's from Alabama. He's going to be a stud. Another edge player from Kentucky, Josh Pascal. And then, you know, you get a safety. They're really loading up the defense this year, which I mean, Motor City's got to be hyped for this, Joe. I mean, that defense is going to be lights out with Kirby Joseph at safety. Go all the way down to Virginia Tech, tight end. James Mitchell, get some more weapons there for Jared Goff. There we go.
There it is.
And you know, then they have like 3 more picks, and one of them's an edge rusher, a linebacker, and a cornerback. Like they're just stacked that defense this year, Joe. And I would rate them as like the draft for the Lions was probably like an A- to a B+. I think Motor City is going to be overly hyped, and like you said, I'm hyped to see the Hard Knocks this year. I feel like, you know, it's going to be so entertaining. I think the Lions have a chance this year, Joe.
Dude, I'm hyped about the Lions. I can't wait to see. I definitely like their draft as well. Getting Jamison Williams, they traded up like 20 spots to go get him. Got really aggressive. I think they're just a more entertaining team. I can't wait to watch them on Hard Knocks. On to my next pick that I like. It's not a first-round pick, but it's a team I'm going to talk about probably later when we talk about winners and losers, and that was the Baltimore Ravens. And I just talked about one Michigan edge rusher. I'm going to talk about another Michigan edge rusher. This was the guy they got in the second round. It was David Ojabo from the University of Michigan. He tore his Achilles at his pro day. Super, super disappointing. He was going to be a first-round pick.
That's right.
He was going to be a first-round pick, first-round talent. I think he's awesome. And when I saw the Ravens drafted him, I was like, that's not even fair. Come on. They're just so good at developing edge rushers. Like, they just constantly are developing edge rushers. And just to have a guy with that much talent, and also the defensive coordinator for the Ravens was the defensive coordinator for David Ojabo at Michigan. It was Matt McDonald, I believe his name is. He was the defensive coordinator for David Ojabo at Michigan, so he knows what David Ojabo is all about. So to me, that draft pick just made so much sense for the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm super hyped to see them. And listen, their draft. We're gonna talk about their draft a little bit later. It was something to behold for sure.
Absolutely, Joe. I mean, the Ravens went all out. They were very exciting in the draft. Hey, might as well talk about my next pick, a pick I really liked, and Kyle Hamilton. We're probably gonna talk about it some more later, but Kyle Hamilton going number 14, which got them off to a massive start. And then they turned Marquis Brown into Tyler Linderbaum. I can hardly pronounce his name. So if I really wanted to, I could say the whole Ravens draft class. But like I said, we'll probably talk about that later. So yeah, no, I like seeing Kyle Hamilton go number 14. I think it's going to be a massive, massive help to the Baltimore Ravens. Last year we didn't get to really see the Baltimore Ravens because the entire team was basically on the sideline injured. But hopefully most of them are back healthy now, and I think the Ravens will be a team to contend with in the AFC, even though it is stacked. I think they're going to make a pretty strong push this year, Joe.
Absolutely. Again, we're going to talk about the Ravens probably in a little bit. I'll give you one more pick that I really liked, and we talked about it a little bit.
Okay.
And we kind of were bagging on the Titans a little bit, but I do like Malik Willis going to the Tennessee Titans. He dropped all the way to the third round, which was just unbelievable to see. Like, I had him mocked going number 10 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had them trading up to go get 7. I think they traded up to 7 or something like that to go and get him. And yeah, that was shocking to see. And Malik Willis, I love Malik Willis. I put my stamp of approval on him. And to see him go to a place where, listen, he doesn't have to play right away, although Ryan Tannehill said he's not going to support him, really, not going to teach him at all. But if all of a sudden Ryan Tannehill gets injured, or knock on wood, we don't want him to get injured, but if all of a sudden, Malik Willis needs to come in, Malik Willis is an amazing runner at the quarterback position. Imagine pairing that up with Derrick Henry in the backfield, and you have like a supercharged version of what like the Baltimore Ravens run, or like the Philadelphia Eagles run, where it's just this run-heavy attack. I think that could be honestly lethal. And I would love to see that. So I love to see Malik Willis go to. I probably would have loved to see him go almost anywhere. Well, I shouldn't say that. I wouldn't have loved to see him go to like the Panthers or something. But I definitely love seeing him go to a place where they could honestly create a really cool, fun offense with Malik Willis and Derrick Henry. And they drafted another running back, Hassan Haskins, another Michigan guy. You have him be part of the mix. But yeah, I think that could be really fun there in Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. And speaking of quarterbacks getting drafted, I got one more draft that I liked, one more draft pick, and that was Kenny Pickens going to Pittsburgh.
Right, Kenny Pickett.
Or is it Kenny Pickett? Sorry, yeah, I read that wrong. Kenny Pickett going to Pittsburgh, Joe. Playing college in Pitt. I didn't know this, but wasn't he the quarterback that did the fake slide?
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was all this controversy. I did not know that. I saw a clip of it, and I was like, holy cow, that's the guy.
Yeah,
but
man.
no, I love him going to Pittsburgh. Him and Mitch Trubisky. I think he can learn a lot from Mitch if Mitch is a starter. And if not, there could be an epic quarterback battle in Pittsburgh this year with Ben Roethlisberger. Well, we never know. Ben's probably coming back to try to fight for his job and play another year.
I hope not.
But,
please.
as a player in Pittsburgh, doesn't even have to leave his own training facility because apparently they split training facility.
Yeah.
So he gets to stay right here in hometown Pittsburgh. I think that's a pretty cool pick. And I can't wait to see the battle. I feel like between him and Mitch, it's gonna give the new life to that offense. Maybe see some balls go farther than 5 or 10 yards down the field from the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I'm excited for that. 100%. Yeah, Kenny Pickett, definitely a little bit of surprise that he slid all the way to 20, but the quarterback sliding were a huge storyline in this draft class. 100%. I mean, Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback to go in the first round, and the next quarterback didn't go until the third round with Desmond Ridder going to the Atlanta Falcons. But unless you got any more draft picks that you love, maybe we'll get into little winners and losers. And I'll start us off with a little positivity. We're just talking about the Ravens, so why don't we get that one out of the way? Winner.
Let's hear it, Joe.
Major winner, Baltimore Ravens. Their draft class, to me, yeah, it's one of the better draft classes I've seen the past few years. And the Ravens just do this, I feel like, every year. They're such a well-run organization. They go into the draft, they grab Kyle Hamilton at 14, who many people had as like a top 5 talent. And then they trade Marquis Brown. They're back in the first round. They grab Tyler Linderbaum, and that was a guy who I said 2 weeks ago, or no, I said on the mock draft episode, I would love to see it. It was like one of my favorite picks. I said I would love to see Tyler Linderbaum on the Ravens. They get Tyler Linderbaum. They get David Ajabo. They get Travis Jones, the defensive tackle. Many people thought he might go at the end of the first round. They get like a first-round talent there in the third round. And then Daniel Falele also was a pick later on. He's a big, like 6'8", 380 tackle that they can develop. And it's just like so many of their picks that when they happen, I was just like, of course the Ravens just get this really good player that everybody was talking about. And yeah, the Ravens they know how to build a team. And I trust them to develop these players. I trust them to develop guys like David Ajabo and Daniel Falele. And then you have guys like Kyle Hamilton coming in, and I think he'll make an immediate impact. He's like just such an instinctual player. And it's just like the Tyler Linderbaum thing. One of my probably my favorite pick. No, I won't say my favorite pick in the draft, but like one of my favorite picks in the draft. Love to see him in that run-heavy offense. And yeah, it's just the Ravens. I thought they had the best draft out of anybody in the entire draft, and I thought they executed flawlessly, and the board really fell their way. And yeah, they got a lot better. And like you said earlier, I think they're gonna be making some noise this season because they're gonna be healthy. Hopefully they're healthy. And now they have like a stacked roster coming back after an incredible draft.
No, absolutely, Joe. I feel like the Ravens had the best draft of the entire out of every team during the draft. I'm gonna go negative. You went positive. Okay, I'm gonna go negative, Joe. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a bit. But my New England Patriots, okay. I don't know what they are doing, and I am so deeply offended. I was so hyped, Joe. I was like, this is it, man. We're going to get some linebackers. We're going to build that defense. We're going to be a team to compete with this year, Joe. That didn't happen. That did not happen. Very puzzled. Didn't make any sense that we went and got, like I said, an offensive lineman who was maybe second round worthy in the first round. Very strange, like you said earlier. And then our second round pick, Taekwon Thornton, wide receiver, who I believe he's a wide receiver, who I think is more of a track star than a football player.
Ran the fastest 40-yard dash this year.
Yeah, which I think is cool. But, I mean, we already have a pretty loaded receiving core. I mean, N'Keal Harry, I know he's on the way out, but, I mean, I was like, maybe get a linebacker instead. And the ones that really got me, Joe, we took 2 more running backs, and we have already
two running backs.
We already have like a 7-headed monster in the backfield. Like, oh yeah, let's add 2 more to that. Oh, and you know what? Might as well draft Mac Jones's replacement in the 4th round. So yeah, we had nine picks, and we didn't get a single edge rusher or off the ball linebacker with any of them. So I don't know what Bill Belichick is doing. I'm gonna trust in Bill, and I'm gonna hope. I'm gonna hope, Joe, that we make something happen out of these picks. But I feel so embarrassed that we just did nothing to help our team.
Yeah. You gotta, I guess, give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt. He's done it for so many years in a row, but definitely it is kind of annoying. I could see as a Patriots fan, it's like there's all these fun players that everybody's getting, and the Patriots always have to get this random dude that was bagging groceries at on an Air Force base or something, instead of drafting just a normal player. Why don't you? I felt like the Dolphins did that when Brian Flores was with the Dolphins as well. It's kind of like a Patriots thing. It's you can't just take the obvious really good player. You have to do something that makes you look smart. And it's just yeah. And I'm sure the Patriots will end up developing Cole Strange, who they took in the first round, and Taekwon Thornton and all these guys, and they'll look fine. And I don't think it's as big a deal as some people are making it out to be, but definitely as far as value goes, I don't think they had the best draft. They definitely reached on a couple players. But yeah, I won't bury him too much. I'll let you do that. But
yep.
I'll go with a loser too, since we're on the negative side here. I'm gonna say a loser is I'm gonna say all the quarterbacks not named Kenny Pickett. And I know I said that Malik Willis was my favorite pick, but he was my favorite pick in the first round. And if you're not Kenny Pickett and you were a quarterback in this draft, boy, oh boy, did you probably have a rough few days. I mean, the quarterbacks fell and fell and fell and fell. Went from making potentially a $30 million rookie contract to a $3 million rookie contract. Malik Willis fell all the way to the third round. Desmond Ridder was the second quarterback to go off the board in the third round to the Falcons. Yeah, that's a huge loser to me. Just to see the quarterbacks just fall. I know the quarterbacks were not that good in this year's draft, but if you would have told me that this is how it panned out, I wouldn't have believed you. I thought that was insane to see the quarterbacks just free fall.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I know we had touched on it, a few times that the quarterbacks were not anything super special this year compared to years past. But yeah, to just see them drop and continue to drop, Joe, was crazy. I'm gonna go with another loser. We're just gonna stay on the train of losers here, Joe.
Bunch of losers.
Yeah, a bunch of losers. I feel like there are a lot of losers in this year's draft. But we're going to go with Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, Joe.
Oh, I had that one too. That was my next one.
Oh, nice, nice. After not the best rookie campaign, adding, basically new management this offseason, reloading, the offense would be amazing for him. I think it'd be a lot of help. Actually, another team, I believe RG3 said he would like to go play for, potentially the Bears.
Where are you seeing?
I think Justin Fields. Yeah, I saw this somewhere. It was the Bears, and then it was the Falcons. Anyway, that's besides the point. After spending, their first or the second round picks on defensive players, they went and got a wide receiver in the third round, Velus Jones Jr., and that's already basically a lot of people are comparing him to Darnell Mooney, who turns 25. And they were thinking he'd be more of a day 3 or 4 pick. And then in the fifth round, they went and got an offensive tackle who just was a very surprising pick. And, the rest of their draft was apparently very uninspiring. I read somewhere. Yeah. And so, as Justin Fields, you must be thinking well, I guess sophomore slump is going to be worse than expected. Mm-hmm. Nothing too excited. I mean, I really feel like the Detroit Lions did this. Joe, they went up. Yeah. I feel like the Packers kind of stayed level. Yeah. And then you see the Bears just...
the Bears are going the wrong way.
Yep. One of those teams just moving in the wrong direction. So poor Justin Fields. I was kind of excited to see what he might do this year. But I just think we're going to have to wait another year or two because the Bears gave him zero help.
Yeah, I'm really bummed out about that. I'm big on Justin Fields, and I'm a Michigan guy, but once Ohio State guys go into the NFL, I don't care about what school they went to anymore, but I was huge on Justin Fields coming in the draft, and I thought, oh man, he could have a huge second year, and they just haven't done anything to help that guy out at all. They go and get a defensive head coach, and then they go defense heavy early on in the draft. You don't have a first round pick because you used it to go get Justin Fields, and yeah, I think it could be a rough year for that kid, and I feel bad for him. I had him as one of my losers too. Velus Jones Jr. or whatever that guy, that they drafted, he's apparently more of a returner. I read somewhere that he's already 25 years old. So that's old for a receiver coming into the draft, and he's like a speed guy, but it's like they have nothing at receiver, like nothing. Darnell Mooney is the number 1 guy. He should be at best like a number 2 or 3, and 2 is even a stretch, I think. Like Darnell Mooney's good, but like, yeah, it could be a rough go around for Justin Fields. Why don't I swing it back over to the positive side? I'm gonna say one of my winners, and I'm gonna say the Philadelphia Eagles. We talked about them getting AJ Brown. I gotta bring up the Eagles. You know why? There's one person listening to this that definitely knows. I gotta bring up the Eagles. Traded for AJ Brown. That was awesome. I'm all for it. Go get good players. Just get really, really good players. Don't overthink it. Oh, I don't want to spend this money on this player. Just go get a good player and add him to your roster. And then they draft Jordan Davis before that, who is an athletic freak, just a monster, a bear of a man, just a scary, scary dude. You get Cam Jurgens, who's going to be like the Jason Kelce replacement next year. Jason Kelce basically drafted him himself to replace him. And then you get Nakobi Dean, one of my favorite players in this draft class, a guy who I think is an amazing linebacker, instinctual, just so fast, just all over the field. He drops all the way to the 3rd round. When I had him mocked in the 1st round, apparently he had medical issues. The Philadelphia Eagles say they didn't see those medical issues, so they draft him. And if that pick hits, that's huge. That's just massive. I love the Nakobi Dean pick. I hope it works out for them. I like Nakobi Dean. And I thought the Eagles were one of the teams that really, really kicked butt in this draft. And I wouldn't be surprised to see teams picking them over the Cowboys to win that division this upcoming season. And I might even do that. I'm not sure yet. But they kick butt.
Joe, we can't forget about the Washington Commanders. You never know what they're gonna do.
The commies.
The Commanders. The commies, man. No, I think the Eagles had a really great draft. Getting AJ Brown was massive, and I feel like they are now a team that can compete with the Cowboys like they were almost last year. I mean, Cowboys did get off to that hot start, but I feel like they had a really, really solid draft. Cowboys, I feel like didn't have the best of drafts, but not the worst either. But I'm gonna go, Joe. I'm gonna go with a positive here. I'm gonna go with a winner, and we're gonna go with the New York Jets.
Okay,
Joe. Yeah, I mean, hard to lose when you got a couple of top 10 picks.
That's fair.
And
if there were a loser with 2 top 10 picks, that would be pretty depressing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. I'm gonna go with the New York Jets. Getting Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson were a great 1-2 punch. Also landing Jermaine Johnson II with a trade back in the 1st round at 26. I think that was also pretty big. So I'm excited. I think Rob Saleh. I don't know if you saw his reaction, Joe, when they drafted Sauce Gardner.
Fired up.
Dude, that man lost it. I think Sauce is going to be a great defensive back, help that defense out for sure. And then get, Zach Wilson, a receiver that shares the same last name, Garrett Wilson.
They're perfect.
From Ohio State, get him a weapon. Someone to throw to. I think Zach is he's very athletic, so I think he's going to be, better than we and most people think. And then go out and get Jermaine Johnson, a defensive end from Florida State, to also help boost that defense along with Sauce Gardner. I feel like the Jets did this, Joe, where my Patriots, like I just talked about, they did, Jets. The Jets took off.
For those that
took flight,
those that
Joe.
Can't see, Mike is showing, and by those that can't see, I mean everybody listening. Mike is going an upward trajectory with his hand, and then a downward trajectory for the Patriots. So
yeah, for those of you that are visually impaired on this podcast, I was giving Joe some visuals on what these teams have done, and I would say the Jets went up. They took flight for once, Joe. They finally got off the ground.
They also got Breece Hall, like the number 1 running back for a lot of people. They got him in the 2nd round. You could argue the Jets got, like, on some people's board, the number 1 corner, the number 1 receiver on some people's boards. I don't think Jermaine Johnson was the number 1 edge rusher, but he was definitely top 3, top 4. And then they got the number 1 running back. Like, they got a lot of value, and you would hope to do that when you have as many picks as they do. But definitely the Jets were a big winner. I think the Giants were a really big winner as well in this draft. New York as a whole. The Giants get Evan Neal. Love that pick. I think I mocked them getting that pick. It was either Evan Neal or Ike Ekwonu. But yeah, they get him. Then they get Kayvon Thibodeau. I think he's going to be really good in the league. And they had an awesome draft. Definitely an awesome first night. But one of my winners, Mike, and I'm going to trigger you a little bit. I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. Are a big time winner in the 2022 NFL draft. They get Trent McDuffie with their first number 1 pick. Then they get George Karlaftis, who a lot of people had as like the number 2, number 3 edge rusher in this draft class. He was like before the season started, he could have been like the first overall pick. They get George Karlaftis, and then they don't like force a wide receiver. They end up with Sky Moore, who a lot of people mocked them in the first round. They get him in the second round. And he's basically a young, version of Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to compare him to him, but he could develop into that, just a small, speedy guy. And then you get Leo Chenal, who a lot of people love, that linebacker out of Wisconsin. To me, I love what the Chiefs did. I thought they just got better. They didn't force the receiver, still ended up getting a really, really good receiver, I think. And then they bolstered a defense that needs a lot of help. And yeah, I think the Chiefs, the team, you got to stop sleeping on them. I think they're going to be right there with the Chargers. I think people are just placing the Chargers up there. Oh, they're going to finish above the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs killed this draft, and I think we can't count them out. I thought they did a really good job in the 2022 NFL draft.
I'm still counting them out, Joe. That AFC West is absolutely stacked as can be.
Hater.
I have no hope for the Kansas City Chiefs. No, the Chiefs did very good in the draft. I mean, after, like I said, seeing my team completely fall apart, I feel like every team did amazing compared to them. So I can't really talk too much smack. But, I mean, I got one more winner, Joe.
All right.
And it's teams that had to wait in this year's draft. 8 teams came in this year without a first-round pick. And while others had to wait even longer to make their first selections, most of the clubs ended up making the most of what they had. The Dolphins got Channing Tindall.
Mm-hmm.
Browns getting Perry and Winfrey. Yep. Raiders getting Matthew Butler. Rams getting Darian Kendrick. Niners getting Drake Jackson. Broncos getting Nick Bonito. And the Cardinals getting Cameron Thomas. I feel like these players give their teams a lot of great value. So I feel like, like we talked about, there wasn't a whole lot of hype around this year's draft, but I feel like it was a very deep draft. So teams that needed to wait a little bit to get their first selections, I feel like they actually nailed it. Versus the teams like, my Patriots, who had quite a few picks this year and just fell apart. I feel like the teams that waited a little extra this year ended up nailing it and doing a really good job. So yeah, kudos to them. And yeah, I feel like there were a lot of winners out there, Joe.
Absolutely. There was, I think a lot of teams like the Dolphins and the Eagles still had first round picks, but they're building up for next year's draft. A lot of people think next year's draft is going to be much, much better. So definitely having less picks in this draft, more picks in next year's draft could be beneficial for a lot of teams. I'll give you 2 quick more winners before we close out this week's show. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought they were a huge winner. You talked about them getting Kenny Pickett. They not only did they get Kenny Pickett, they bring in George Pickens, who I think is who you got mixed up with Kenny Pickett before. George Pickens, the wide receiver, who I'm really big on. And then they also bring in another wide receiver, Calvin Austin, a much smaller, speedier receiver. I love it. You go get Kenny Pickett. You bring in right away weapons for him. And we know what Pittsburgh does with receivers. Like Pittsburgh has developed receiver after receiver after receiver. They had Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster was really good for a stint there. They develop receiver after receiver after receiver. So definitely love that. Just surrounding your rookie with receivers that I know they will develop. And then the Green Bay Packers, I thought they were a winner as well. Didn't force the receiver. Went and got a couple defenders in the first round. A lot of people would have felt the pressure. Oh, we have to get a receiver. We have to get a receiver. They didn't feel the pressure. I respect that a lot. They went and got Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. Doesn't hurt to get a couple Georgia defenders because that defense was unbelievable. And then you get Christian Watson, a receiver who I really love. They traded up in the second round to go get Christian Watson. So you still get a potential number one receiver of the future. Loved what the Packers did, and I think they'll be a team to reckon with. They were a team that kind of looked like they were down in the dumps, but with the way they're improving that defense, and if Christian Watson can come in and be that guy, I mean, they could be a scary team to mess with this upcoming season. But yeah, those are my final winners, and that kind of wraps up us talking about the 2022 NFL Draft. Mike, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say on it. I think we've said it all.
Joe, to be honest, I would just like to throw in there that your mock draft absolutely killed it. Figured I would just throw that out there. I don't think anyone's talked about it enough. To be honest.
I don't think we've talked about it much.
I mean, I just figured I might as well throw that in there as a little plug. Give you a little shout out.
You say I was a winner for having the best mock draft?
I will give you winner status, Joe. You are one of my winners as the best mock draft I saw. Better than Mel Kiper's.
Mel Kiper.
Yeah, Mel Kiper Jr. Joe, you're so much better than that guy.
Yeah, definitely better than that.
So yeah, 100%. So yeah, Joe, you're a winner in my books.
Thank you. I'm gonna say a loser is every other mock draft in the world because I'm taking over, baby. But Mike, this was fun. Next week we'll get into probably non-draft related stuff. We'll be right back for you. Try to get a little bit on a better schedule, whether we're both on here or it's just me. I know you're going on vacation. You might not even be here next week, will you?
No, Joe. Thursday I'll be in Florida.
Gosh, it's going to be me all by myself again. Unbelievable.
Joe, I'm just going to let you know, I'll be thinking about you while I'm sitting on the beach, listening to the ocean. And then guess what? I'll be seeing your parents that weekend.
Oh, yeah. My parents are also going on vacation to see you, and
I'll see them in Dallas.
Unbelievable. And I'm going to be sitting here saying, I don't know if I like the depth of tackle for the Carolina Panthers, and I'm going to be talking about that, and you're going to be on vacation drinking.
Take that back, Joe. The depth of tackles on the Carolina Panthers is nothing to be sad about.
There's nothing to be sad about. Well, listen. We're going to be in very different places next week, but I hope you have a good time. You deserve it. I know you've been very busy in your life. I appreciate you making time to have a good time.
Absolutely,
and talk
Joe.
A little ball, even though we're not draft experts. I'm a mock draft expert, but I'm not a draft expert. But it's still fun. I enjoyed the draft, and there'll be a lot more fun things to talk about in the future this off season.
Oh yeah, we're getting close, Joe.
We're getting close. I feel like the NFL season is going to be here before we know it. I think next week the schedule comes out, so maybe I'll have an episode on that. Looking forward to that. But Mike, I don't know, unless you got anything else to say. I don't know. I hate putting you on the spot like that, but also it's kind of fun.
Mean, I'm just gonna say that poor John Morant, who's gonna get absolutely destroyed after talking smack about Steph Curry on the court, either last night or the night before. I feel like the Warriors are about to just dominate these Grizzlies. So as much as I used to hate the Warriors and Steph Curry as a Cavs fan, I'm now jumping on the bandwagon of the Golden State Warriors. Let's go Golden State. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, winning it all this year. How about them boys from Golden State, Joe?
All right. Okay. Couldn't have said it better myself. For Mike, the biggest Golden State Dub Nation fan, for myself, he's eating a W right now. Oh, goodness gracious. For Mike, for myself, and that's it. That's just us two. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Mike's gonna be uploading some TikToks. Maybe he'll upload a couple TikToks from the beach. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, a couple like bathing suit TikToks or something. Maybe throw a couple dances in there or something. Follow us there at _average Joe Show. And what else am I trying to say? Give us 5-star rating. Subscribe to us, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And for Mike, for myself, we are looking forward to the rest of the off season. A lot of stuff still to happen. Can't wait for training camp. Can't wait for the preseason. Can't wait for the regular season. But until then, we will catch you guys on the next one.